It's now time to begin the 5th chapter of Beehive, The Snake and the Mirror. He's right here. Written by Waikom Muhammad Bashir. It's translated by V. Abdullah. Now, why translated? Because Waikom Muhammad Bashir would do this in Malayalam, right? So they needed a translator to switch over to Hindi or to English. And to know about him, Waikom Muhammad Bashir was a Malayalam fiction writer from the state of Kerala in India. He was a humanist, freedom fighter, novelist, and short story writer. He is noted for his path-breaking, disarmingly down-to-earth style of writing that made him equally popular among the literary critics as well as the common man. His way of writing was way simple. It was absolutely down to earth, and that is why it was appreciated by the critics as well as the common man. That was about him. Now a little about the translator as well. V. Abdullah was born in Tikodi near Kozhikode. After graduating MA and BL, Abdullah joined Orient Longman, from where he retired as divisional director in charge of publication. For a time, he was an executive member of the Kerala Sangeet Natak Academy. Both before and after retirement, he used to write regularly in English for the Hindu and Frontline and in Malayalam for Matrabhumi. He published many books of translations from Malayalam to English. So you see, he was the translator who translated Bashir's work into English. And the story which we are going to move ahead to is pretty creepy. So if you have this phobia of snakes, which I do, yes I do, and creepy reptiles, they're really scary. I mean, it can really give me, goosebumps the moment I talk of them. But yeah, right now I'm going to do that great thing of explaining it to you. And so hold on, hold your breath. The plot. Now you need to understand, as always, what is the plot of the story. The Snake and the Mirror tells us the story of a homeopathic doctor who once had an encounter with a poisonous snake. He was a homeopath, right? And he had an encounter. He actually, met a poisonous snake. It coiled itself round his left arm. It had coiled itself round his left arm. The doctor was horrified and prayed to God to save him. We pray to the doctor to save us. Where does the doctor go? The doctor goes to God. Yeah? The snake turned its head and saw its own image in the mirror on the table. It unwound itself, as in it had coiled, so it unwound, it opened up from the doctor's arm and crept towards the mirror. Now, the doctor got up slowly from the chair and he ran out of the house. He went to the house of one of his friends and spent the night there. Next morning, when he came back, he was shocked to find that there was nothing left in his room. Some thief had taken away most of his things. Well. So that's the plot. Let's get to the story, because the way it has been explained word by word, it is really scary. Of course, now that you know the plot, you're not really scared. That suspense is gone, sort of. But let's enjoy the story. Has a snake, oh my God, I can't, do I ask you this question? I hope your answer is no. Has a snake ever coiled itself round any part of your body? Never from my side. A full-blooded cobra? Wow! All of us fell silent. The question came from the homeopath. Now this question the homeopath is asking. The topic came up when we were discussing snakes. We listened attentively as the doctor continued with his tale. Here, tale means the story. Yeah. It was a hot summer night. Now here, the homeopath is telling the story to his students. So it was a hot summer night, about 10 o'clock. I had my meal at the restaurant and returned to my room. I heard a noise from above as I opened the door. The sound was a familiar one, jana pehchana, something I've heard before. One could say that the rats and I shared the room. Now, rats and I shared the room, that means he knew that there is a rat in the house. I mean, there are rats in the house. I took out my box of matches and lighted the kerosene lamp on the table. Now, it was night time, remember, and that time they did not have these lights and stuff, so he lit the kerosene lamp. He felt a very familiar sound, something which he knew. The house was not electrified. Electrified as in charged with electricity or having an electric current passing through. So that place where he was living had no electric current. So obviously no lights. It was a small rented room. He was living in a small room which he had rented. I had just set up medical practice and my earnings were meager. I mean, he had just started practicing, what he had learned, homeopathy. So he was just practicing and he was merely earning. He was hardly earning. It is lacking in quantity or inadequate. Very little he was earning. I had about 60 rupees in my suitcase. Now then, 60 rupees also was a big amount. It had a lot of worth. It was valuable. Along with some shirts and dhotis, I also possessed one solitary black coat which I was then wearing. Now, along with some shirts and dhotis, those days the doctors were differently dressed. I mean, he was a homeopath, that's different. But they used to wear dhoti and shirt. That was the dress then. And he also, along with that, he had one. Possessed means he had a solitary as in the only black coat, one single black coat which he was wearing. I took off my black coat, white shirt and not so white vest and hung them up. I opened the two windows in the room. Now obviously, please understand, it is a hot summer night. There is no electric current. So obviously you need some air. You're feeling hot. So he took out all his clothes and he opened the two windows in the room. It was an outer room with one wall facing the open yard. Thank God it was an open yard, so some breeze could come. It had a tiled roof. The roof had tiles with long supporting gables. Now what are gables? These are the upper part of a wall below a sloping roof. Now can you see, this is a sloping roof and this was like a gable, that's how it is. So that rested on the beam over the wall. Now here, what is a beam? It is a long sturdy piece of squared timber or metal used to support the roof. Even our houses, if you see the pillars in your house, when you are taking a new apartment and you want to renovate, renovate in the sense you want to do it your way. Your architect or your that construction guy, he'll tell you this is beam, you cannot touch it. So basically that's the support, of the ceiling and the wall and the whole building, like you have that whole thing going. So you cannot break that. Definitely not. That's a beam actually. So this is what it was. That's how he's describing his house. There was no ceiling. It was like, that thing was right on top. He had no ceiling. There was a regular traffic of rats to and from the beam. Regular traffic of rats. If this is the beam, they would keep coming, up, down that beam. So traffic, the movement of something, usually vehicles of people, but here they are rats. So it was a traffic of rats. You can just imagine that room. So haunting. I made my bed and pulled it close to the wall. He wanted the breeze. I lay down, but I could not sleep. I got up and went out to the veranda. Veranda is, the roofed platform along with the outside of a house, that open part, that open area, for a little air. But the wind god seemed to have taken time off. It is put so beautifully. See the way he has played with the words. What does he say? The wind god seemed to have taken time off. That means at that point of time, there was no wind at all. The wind god was away. He was in no mood, giving some wind and blowing some nice cool breeze. He was not there. He was away. I went back into the room. Now, he was not getting breeze there also. What's the point? So, let me get back into the room. I went back into the room and sat down on the chair. I opened the box beneath the table and took out a book. Now, he opened the box beneath as in underneath. It was under the table, and he took out a book. The Materia Medica. Now, he was, this is in Latin basically. Materials of medicine. Various medicines used in homeopathy. Now, he was a doctor, so he constantly needed updating and reading. So, he said, okay, now since I'm not getting some sleep, let me catch up on let me start reading some book. I opened it at the table on which stood the lamp and a large mirror. A small comb lay beside the mirror. Now, when he took out the book, what did he do? He kept it on the table. And on that table, there were other things also. What were the other things? There was a lamp, there was a large mirror, and there was a comb. One feels tempted to look into a mirror when it is near one. Obviously, we all do that, don't we? Whenever we pass by a mirror, we obviously want to look at ourselves. You're pretty tempted. You want to do it. You have that urge to do it. You just feel like doing it. Even when you go to a shop, you go shopping, don't you do that? Whenever you pass by any mirror, you want to peep into the mirror and see yourself, oh, am I perfect? Yes. I took a look. So even he took a look. In those days, I was a great admirer of beauty, and I believed in making myself look handsome. Everyone wants to be handsome and beautiful. Who doesn't, right? And if you look at yourself, quite often you'll feel, oh, I'm really beautiful. That's your viewpoint. If someone tells you you're ugly, that's their viewpoint. So it really doesn't matter. Seriously, I'm telling you, as long as you are beautiful in your own eyes, that's it. You're sorted. How does it matter what they look at, right? So don't ever bother. We all are handsome. We all are beautiful. Yes. So he was a great admirer of beauty. Admirer as in he was a supporter. He was an enthusiast. He used to say, oh, you should really look smart. And he always wanted to look handsome. I was unmarried and I was a doctor. I felt I had to make my presence felt. He says, yes. I should, it should be, look, I'm handsome and I'm a doctor, I'm unmarried, so I stand a chance. I picked up the comb and ran it through my hair and adjusted the parting as the line of scalp in a person's hair. So, you remove some removed from here, that's a parting, you do the parting of your hair so that it looked straight and neat. Again, I heard that sound from above. Now, you remember, he has been listening to a certain sound. When he was opening the door, also he heard it. And he felt, okay, these are the rats. Yes. So, while he was doing this, again from top, right from now, remember there is no ceiling. Okay. Directly it is just, so again he felt he heard some noise from above. I took a close look at my face in the mirror. He again looked at himself in the mirror. I made an important decision. So he was busy admiring his beauty. He was lost. He was like, oh, I'm handsome. I'm unmarried. I'm a doctor. So I need to make my presence felt. So what he did was, again, he took a close look at his face in the mirror. He made an important decision. What was that? I would shave daily and grow a thin mustache to look more handsome. He says, aha. Now he gets a thought. He says, okay, I want to still look more handsome, so what should I do? I shall shave daily and probably I should grow a thin mustache. I was, after all, a bachelor and a doctor. That reminds me, if a boy is a bachelor, what is an unmarried girl called? You got it? Yes, spinster. Right? So you girls are all spinsters and boys, the unmarried boys, are bachelors. So yes, he was a bachelor and a doctor. I looked into the mirror and smiled. He was praising himself. He was just admiring how handsome he was. It was an attractive smile. So yes, my smile is attractive. He made another earth-shaking decision. What was that? Earth-shaking decision. Wow. I would always keep that attractive smile on my face. He says, oh, I'm always going to smile to look more handsome. I was, after all, a bachelor and a doctor too on top of it. So he's like got layers, of pride. Like, oh yes, I have it all. Again came that noise from above. OMG. Now, third or fourth time, I think he gets that noise. And where is it coming? It's coming from above. Remember, there is no light in the room. I got up, paced up and down the room. Got up, paced up and down. As you know, you go and you come. You pace up and down. You're going up and down. Then another lovely thought struck me. Now, he's very thoughtful, at that point of time, since he's not getting sleep. So he's getting wonderful thoughts. I would marry. He says, yeah, it's time now. I should get married. I would get married to a woman doctor who had plenty of money and a good medical practice. He says, now I should get married, but to whom? Not an ordinary girl. I want a woman doctor. And of course, she should have a lot of money and good medical practice. She had to be fat for a valid reason. Now, you'll be really shocked to know this further. She had to be fat for some reason. And what was the reason? If I made some silly mistake and needed to run away, she should not be able to run after me and catch me. Yes, that's the reason his wife should be fat. So that she does not catch him. If he makes a silly mistake and she has to chase him, she should not be able to catch him. With such thoughts in my mind, now he was lost in his thoughts. He was lost in that beautiful world of thoughts and he did not realize. With such thoughts in my mind, I resumed my seat in the chair in front of the table. Again, with those thoughts, again he went and sat down in front of that table. On that chair. You remember that table? It had what did it have? It had a lamp, it had a mirror and it had a comb also on it. Suddenly, there came a dull thud as if a rubber tube had fallen to the ground. Surely nothing to worry about. Now he sat. Now as he sat, he felt something falling. And what did he realize? He thought, according to himself, it was a rubber tube. It had fallen from top. So he did not bother because it did not make that loud noise. It was a dull thud. It was a less noisy thing. And he said, okay, it's fine. It's just a rubber tube. Just let it be there. He did not really bother about it. Even so, I thought I would turn around and take a look. Now, he said, maybe, just let me see. No sooner, now is the climax, guys, pay attention. No sooner had I turned than a fat snake wriggled over the back of the chair and landed on my shoulder. Now, let's just imagine the scene. I'll tell you what, imagine yourself on the chair. Yes. And you'll really experience, it'll be fun. It'll be really fun. It is like that 70 effect and You'll feel it good. Go for it. So yes, so when he sat, and the moment he tried to look behind, at the same time, the snake, there was a fat snake, wriggled over the back. Wriggled, you move while squirming, like that, it wriggles, that's wriggle. Wriggled over the back of the chair and landed on his shoulder. The snakes landing on me and my turning were at the same time. It was simultaneous. Simultaneous means occurring at once, at the same time. I didn't jump. Are you there? With a snake on your shoulder? Don't jump. I didn't jump. I didn't tremble. Tremble as in shake involuntarily. I did not shiver. I didn't cry out. There was no time to do any such thing. He did nothing. He was speechless. He was motionless. There was no movement. There was no sound from him. The snake slithered along my shoulder, ouch, and coiled around my left arm above the elbow. So it came from there and it went round and round on his left arm above the elbow. The hood was spread out. The hood of the snake, the covering for the head and the neck, that's the hood. You can see it there. There it is. Yes. So the hood was spread out and its head was hardly 3 or 4 inches from my face. Oh my God. So can you see it is like 3 or 4 inches? It's just this. Yes. So are you really imagining it? Are you there? So yes, it was 3 or 4 inches from my face. It would not be correct to say merely that I sat there holding my breath. He could no longer breathe. Right? Merely means just. It was not just. He was sitting there holding his breath. I was turned to stone. He had become a thing. He had become a stone. Just a stone with no breath. But my mind was very active. My mind was working. He had the presence of mind. That was working. The door opened into darkness. The door opened into darkness. The room was surrounded by darkness. In the light of the lamp, I sat there like a stone image in the flesh. What do we mean by the stone image in the flesh? Motionless, no movement, like a statue made of flesh. Now, isn't that contradictory? A statue and flesh, how does it go? But yes, see how beautifully the author has played, with all the words. So he sat there like a stone image in the flesh. Now, actually, that's how it's showing you the level of, horror. It's literally like horror. I felt then the great presence of the creator of this world and this universe. Now, these are the times, these are the trying times when we forget everyone else on earth and we only think of God, because at such times only God can save you. So he actually felt that God is there with him. The great presence of the creator of this world, God, and this universe. God was there. He somehow felt that he was protected. Suppose I said something and he did not like it. I tried in my imagination to write in bright letters outside my little heart the words, "Oh God." He says, supposing I say something. Now, at that point of time, you don't want to annoy God, do you? Do you want to make him angry? No. So he says, I tried in my imagination to write in bright letters. He wanted to make it nice and bright and clear. Outside my little heart, the words, "Oh God." There was some pain in my left arm. Now this one had coiled, it was fully there, it was tight. It was as if a thick leaden rod, no, a rod made of molten fire was slowly but powerfully crushing my arm. Now this snake is, it's heavy, it was fat, right? So he could feel it slowly coming. He could feel it's hot. He could feel that snake is literally crushing his arm. Very gradually it was happening. The arm was beginning to be drained of all strength. Now, because this was happening, obviously the blood circulation must have stopped. So tight, even when you do a blood test, when they tie you that rubber tube just for those 3-4 seconds till they inject the blood out, do you realize the moment they open, you can feel the blood gushing through? Yeah. So this is, imagine now, that's just a single tube, and this was a thick, heavy, fat snake. Yes. So the arm was beginning to be drained, as in deprived of strength or vitality. It was losing strength because the blood circulation had obviously stopped. What could I do? Are you there in that situation? What would you have done? Think it over. Come on. Use your creative mind. Think if any such situation, God forbid, obviously. So this is just fiction. Yeah. If anything like this would have come, you would have come across, what would you have done? Apart from screaming. At my slightest movement, the snake would strike me. He said, if I would have even moved a bit and zoop, he would have come on me. I would have just died. Death lurked 4 inches away. It remained hidden so as to wait in ambush. Now it was just here. It was just 4 inches away, and zoop, all that he had to do was that, and I would be dead. Suppose it struck, suppose it hit. What was the medicine I had to take? He was a homeopath. He was a doctor. There were no medicines in the room. Now, being a doctor himself, he had no medicines in his room. I was but a poor, foolish, and a stupid doctor. He says, come on, being a doctor, I'm a human also. Now, this has happened to a human. What can a doctor do here? But yes, there was nothing in his room. I forgot my danger and smiled feebly at myself, lacking in strength or force. It was, he just, this types he did. At myself. Why did he do that? Because he realized, what am I doing? I'm a doctor and I don't have medicines in the room. It seemed as if God appreciated that. God was somewhere happy with that. The snake turned its head. Now, it was like this. This was the chair. Remember, just there was the table. So, the snake turned its head. Okay, it turned its head, and directly there, what did he see? He saw into the mirror. He looked into the mirror and he saw its reflection. He could see himself. I do not claim that it was the first snake that ever looked into a mirror. He says, I have no idea. I really do not even claim that was this the first snake who ever looked into a mirror? But it was certain that the snake was looking into the mirror. He constantly turned behind, and in the mirror, he could see his own reflection. So, he was looking there only. The snake was looking into the mirror continuously. Was it admiring its own beauty? Now, he was looking into the mirror. So, was he saying, oh, how handsome am I? Or how beautiful? Don't even have an idea. Was it trying to make an important decision about growing a mustache? Now, looking at himself, just like the doctor was making a decision, that I should look more handsome, maybe, I should shave daily or grow a thin mustache. He was making those decisions. So, he felt that the snake is also looking in the mirror and doing the same. Or using eyeshadow. Now, what's an eyeshadow, right? The cosmetics for the eyelids. This is the eyelid, this part of it. So, they have these colorful eyeshadows and mascara. Mascara, you can see this Here you have it, the mascara, the cosmetic for the eyelashes. Now the eyelashes are nice and dark and black. So that's what the girls will be aware, boys know it. Or wearing a vermilion spot on its forehead. Vermilion is a bright red color on its forehead. I did not know anything for certain. He says, I had no idea what was the snake thinking about. What sex was this snake? Was it male or female? No idea. So he didn't have an idea whether he was looking at himself in the mirror and saying, was he handsome or was he beautiful? I will never know, for the snake unwound itself. It opened up. You know, it was tight here. It opened up, right? He unwound itself from my arm and slowly slithered into my lap. Now from there he went, because he was on a chair, so he on his lap. From there it crept onto the table. Now it went down and then it went up the table and it moved towards the mirror. Now he wanted to go and see closely. Perhaps it wanted to enjoy its reflection at closer quarters. Closer quarters, that means from a very short distance, very close to something or someone, almost touching. So he literally wanted to go right in front of the mirror. That's closer quarters. I was no mere image cut in granite. Now, at that point of time, it was like I was not an image cut in granite. So he's like a statue. I was no longer a statue. I was not stationary or inanimate. I was suddenly a man of flesh and blood. The moment that snake went there, I suddenly realized I'm human. You know, his presence of mind was there. He was alert. Still holding my breath, I got up from the chair. I quietly went out through the door into the veranda. From there, I leaped into the yard and ran for all I was worth. Yes, he got that moment to escape. He literally ran from there. And this is how he did it. He was still holding his breath. He didn't do that because again the snake would have attacked. Right? So he was holding his breath. He got up from the chair. He went out through the door. He stepped into the veranda. From there, he jumped into the yard and he ran as fast as he could. Each of us heaved a sigh of relief. Now, the students who were listening to him, you know, when they were listening, like I said, you know, the plot was known to you, or else even you would have been in the same situation. They heaved a sigh of relief, as in they produced or they breathed out. You know, you let out or you emit a sigh of relief. Somebody asked, Doctor, now that's funny. This story is scary. It's humorous. It's really funny. Somebody asked, Doctor, is your wife very fat? No, the doctor said, God willed otherwise, as in God didn't give me a fat wife. My life companion is a thin, reedy person with the gift of a sprinter. So it's actually, the whole thing is opposite. He says, my life companion, as in my partner, here wife, is a thin, reedy person. She is tall and she is very thin, and she's been gifted the gift of a sprinter. Sprinter is an athlete who races. So basically, if he makes a silly mistake, she can just run and catch him immediately. She's a sprinter. Person is an athlete who races. That's called a sprinter. Someone else then asked, Doctor, when you ran, did the snake follow you? The doctor replied, I ran and ran till I reached a friend's house. He's saying, I ran non-stop. Immediately, I smeared oil all over myself and took a bath. Now that snake had coiled, it had moved all around him from his shoulder, arm, lap. So he said, I just smeared, I spread all oil over myself and then I took a bath. I changed into fresh clothes. Obviously, he must have worn his friend's clothes. The next morning at about 8:30, I took my friend and one or two others to my room to move my things from there. He says, after such an experience, who would ever want to stay in that house? But we found we had little to carry. Now, he brought people so that he could carry all his stuff, all the things. But unfortunately, what had happened, when they reached there, they realized some thief had removed most of my things. He says, he just left the door open, right? The snake was in, but the thief was not aware. Now, what had happened? The snake went, the thief came, but this guy's, all his things were lost. They were robbed. The room had been cleaned out. Cleaned out here, instance of something completely cleared out. Here, the room was cleared of all its items. Somebody had robbed off all his items. But not really. The thief had left behind one thing as a final insult. Now, again, it's getting a little humorous. He says that the thief took everything, whatever I had. You remember he said he had some shirts and some dhotis and 60 rupees in his suitcase. All that was gone. Clear. But the thief left one thing behind. One thing he did not take from there, and that was like an insult to the doctor. What was that? What was that, I asked. The doctor said, my vest. Now, this is the waistcoat or sleeveless jacket. Yeah. My vest, the dirty one. You remember he was wearing that thing? He said it was a real dirty one. The fellow had such a sense of cleanliness. He said that robber also must have been so clean that he did not like my dirty vest and he just left it as it was. The rascal could have taken it and used it after washing it with soap and water. He says that he could have taken it. He's such a, nuthead sort of person. He could have just taken it, washed it and used it. So what? Did you see the snake the next day, doctor? Another student asked him. Did you see it? The doctor laughed. I've never seen it since. It was a snake which was taken with its own beauty. Now that snake, probably it was taken with, as in it was attracted by its own beauty. Now because he got attracted by his beauty, the snake, his own beauty, that's the reason we had the doctor alive. Obviously, that's the reason. Do you realize how this journey of the story was? It was scary, it was funny, it was a combination of both. And that's where he says, when he says this, the snake which was taken with its own beauty, do you remember the title of the chapter? The Snake and the Mirror. Now you get it? That's the connection and that's the end of your chapter. What does it give you? A man's vanity is more fragile than you might think. It's easy for us to mistake shyness for coldness and silence for indifference. He says that's by Lisa Klippas. He very beautifully is telling you that you just never know. When you have to be quiet. Now, you remember he had literally turned into stone. He had literally stopped breathing. But that's not what it is. He did it for a purpose. Yes, this tells us that we should, irrespective of whatever situation comes our way, we need to have our presence of mind. Now, for us, God forbid we never come across this ever, but for us, we can have situations like an earthquake. Yeah, that time you don't have to scream. You have to, just think, what am I supposed to do? Don't sit and scream and, spread panic. Don't get panicky. Just relax. Relax in the sense, think, be attentive and see what best can be done at that point of time. Likewise, there can be other situations when you're driving, there are so many things, when you come across certain, unforeseen situations, some sudden situations, and you cannot say, I didn't know what to do. You have to, this, like he was fine. He was absolutely, motionless, but his mind was working. That's the reason he ran out. The moment the snake saw in the mirror, he took his escape. That's how it is. Always be present, mindful. You have to make sure that your presence of mind and you are always on an alert mode. So I hope you got the connect. I hope you got your message from this real funny and scary story. Yes, keep watching and keep smiling.